Hello and welcome to the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you live a happier, healthier, and stronger life. Building a life that you love starts with you owning your health and intentionally creating the best version of yourself. So if you're looking to better understand how proper nutrition, daily movement, mindset work, and strength training can help you create a life full of happiness and health, then you are in the right place. I generally hope that the tips, tricks, and information that we share will be the catalyst for change. I'm your host, Adam Lane. It's time to dive in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lane. With me today, Krystal Bullock of Life Nutrition. Take two.
So glad to be back.
It was so good. Almost broke the internet. Brought it back to see if we can break the internet.
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
Let's do it. What I always say is sometimes the sequel is better than the pilot.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Like Empire versus the original.
One you can't remember.
Yes. What is it?
Than the original.
Return of the Jedi was the third.
We still don't know.
No,
it was that good.
What was the original Star Wars called?
So we're coming in here with great
I
expectations.
really want to Google it now, but let's not waste this time. Not waste this time at all. Because the reason why I want to bring you back, one, first podcast got a lot of listens to, which is fantastic. People like you. And you like people.
I love people.
So that worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
You're a big deal. You are a big deal. But listening to the podcast, and I never go back and listen to the podcast. I just put it out there and just, I heard myself the first time. I don't need to listen to me again. I think it's really overwhelming for people because you can go into a podcast or YouTube videos or whatever it is, and you can flip through smart people saying smart things that are not incorrect. These influencers saying these things, and you can flip to say, somebody says, hey, the carnivore diet changed my life. Yeah. And the next video can be hydrogen water is the key to success. And then the next video can be kale will kill you. You don't need to have, kale, blah, 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 blah. And the next thing is you need to put butter in your coffee because you're not doing that. You're missing the boat and you don't even know how to use caffeine. And it can be so overwhelming for people. I know it's overwhelming for me because I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve and learn things and figure things out. And I think at this point, everybody, at least in my mind, I see everybody making things harder than it needs to. Like it should be rather simple at the end of the day. But so I want to dial through and actually, because honestly, listening to that podcast, my mind was a little blown and head kind of hurt at the end of it. Listening to, oh my gosh, because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of like our normal like adult members, and like if they're listening to this, and they're, a teacher at blankety blank school, and they just went back to school this last week, and now they're, they were trying this and now they're doing this. They were intermittent fasting during the summer, but now they're not. And like it's in which to build quality, sustainable habits that last a long time. I'm curious because if you didn't listen to the first episode, go back and listen to the first episode. You are a food therapist and a
integrative holistic nutritionist.
You've said it so many times. I should have it down at this point. So if you don't know what any of that stuff is, go back to the first episode and check it out. But your story goes is that you were 280 pounds at one point, and now you literally weigh half that much at 5'4". And so that is a big deal because not only did you lose the weight, Biggest Loser style, but you have kept it off, not Biggest Loser style. Right. Because I forgot what it is, 99% of the Biggest Loser. I'll put it back on. Yep. Which is so sad because my wife and I used to watch that show back in the day before kids. Like it was such a cool show. Look at all these people doing great things. Like, right. I was inspired. Yeah. Can you take people through your weight loss journey that actually worked, that was sustainable still to this day? Because I do think people will try something, they will get short-term results, something will happen in their life. Yeah. They will, whatever they did change in their life, stop changing. Hey, I'm going to the gym. I lost a few pounds. Oh, my schedule got busy. Can't go to the gym anymore. Gain that weight back. Hey, I'm going to try intermittent fasting and just skip breakfast and do lunch and dinner and cut my calories. And oh, great. I lost a few pounds, but then I got a crummy night's sleep. I woke up and I'm yearning for Dunkin' Donuts, or the Starbucks or whatever it is. And then just that little, it's not a habit because habits are tough to break, the good ones and the bad ones. Yeah. but you have created great habits that you now have to this day. Walk us through that whole thing. Sorry, that was so long.
No, that was great. I think, in order for me to walk through kind of that, it really is emulated in the program and the work that I do, that I help other people with. So taking my experience along with my education, because like I said, in our first encounter together, was that I didn't choose this line of work. It chose me. I say all the time that the pain of change has to be less than the pain of staying the same. So really where it started for me was the pain of staying the same would become so high that it would push me into change. But because the pain was so high, I wanted the change to be immediate. So the idea of delayed change, lifestyle change, felt way too long than what I needed now because of the pain that I was in. So then that led to diet drugs, that led to crash diets, whether it was keto, whether it was, just something drastic.
So you tried all these things.
Correct.
Gotcha.
All of them. I honestly will say that it's rare that I hear of something that I didn't also try. So I sustainably, right? Yeah. I mean, the ice cream sundae, that was an 80s thing. My mom also was a vicious dieter.
Okay.
Because, in the 80s that you could, the ideal image of a woman was to be rail thin.
Yes.
Things have changed a lot. We go from Barbie dolls to Bratz dolls, and we've seen how culture has shifted along with that, that being inundated with what beauty is.
Yeah. I remember girls in high school, thigh gap was a thing.
Right.
And that was, whatever, we were in high school, who knows, mid 90s, blah, 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 blah. And if their thighs touched, it's like, oh, you're too big. So I think we've come a long way with that, which I think is fantastic for all people, but for women specifically. Yeah.
And I think we've come that way because our food system is so toxic. We really don't have a choice. Because
we have to accept it, or
honestly, think of that. Like, I forget that until I go on a vacation, or, and just really the stats are just so high. It hurts my soul. So before I go into that rabbit trail, though, let me get back to your initial walking through. So after the crashing and the dieting, so when I say restrict and binge, it wasn't like an anorexic restrict. It was food restriction, right? Like, I only eat these foods until I can't anymore, or till I can justify why I shouldn't anymore. Maybe the results aren't fast enough. Maybe life started lifing, and that let me go back to the way things were before. And so it was this up and down where, the pain of it would, or the frustration, let me insert that word here, where it would start with this pain, like I have to do something now, and it would be very restrictive, and I would start, and then it would kind of wiggle into imperfect. Well, now I've messed it up anyway, so I might as well throw in the towel, and then I might as well just start on Monday, and then, oh, this isn't a good Monday to start, so I should start probably on the next Monday, which it's almost the beginning of the month, so I should start at the beginning of the month. And then it would just go into that cycle until the pain would become large again, right? And like, I've got to do something. What am I going to do? Oh, not going to do that. Already tried that, right? Like, we want the next shiny thing. I didn't want the approach of eat real food. That is going to take too long. That's too basic. That's not fun. That doesn't trigger my excitement to go buy all the foods. And, I don't know if you remember, like, Octavia was really big, and like all of these packaged foods, Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, like, go buy all the things, and I'm going to do it this time. Well, what was
the one with a shake in the morning, a shake at lunch, and a clean dinner at night?
Oh yeah, that was
what was that?
Was
that Jenny Craig?
Slim Fast.
Is that Slim Fast? Okay, that's what it was.
Slim Fast was that.
But they're selling shakes. That's
right. And then the Nutrisystem, like, you had your little snacks, and then you had your packaged meals, which was all Franken food, but less calories. So anyway, okay, so enough of this happens, and pretty soon your metabolic rate starts to take change and starts not to trust that the next time that you restrict, that it doesn't trust to release the adipose tissue. So the longer you diet cycle, the longer we diet cycle, the harder it becomes to have weight loss.
Can you explain that, like metabolic rate to like that whole piece? Because I don't want to glance over that, because because a lot of people do it. Hey, I'm going to starve myself for a period of time. Now I'm binging. I'm starving myself for a period of time. Now I'm binging. Yeah. Your body doesn't know if you're on the Oregon Trail being chased by bears and then feasting because you killed the bear, right. or if you're, whatever, trying to lose weight. And can you dive more into that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we have to remember all of this works until it doesn't.
Yes.
Right. So intermittent fasting, right? We could take intermittent fasting extreme, or even, which I know I sure did in my journey, because there were results and they worked until they didn't, until my body adapted. So let's just remember for a moment that the metabolism isn't this thing. It's not just this magic thing. Like, oh, I don't have the metabolism I used to have. I hear people say that all the time. Well, what is the metabolism exactly? Well, it's not this thing in your body. It's actually a makeup of 5 different organs. The 5 different organs that make up the metabolism is the liver, the pancreas, the kidneys, the thyroid, and the adrenals. So
I've never heard it explained like this. I really like this. Keep going.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
It totally makes sense. But yes, I've never thought about it like this.
Yeah. So we've got these 5 organs that when they work in rhythm and they work well, the metabolism works well, because that is the metabolism. Yep. These 5 things make up the metabolism. And so when one of them becomes taxed, or more than one becomes taxed or lethargic, or let's say even just backed up with toxic load, right? So think of like the liver and processing everything that goes through the blood, the natural flavors, the chemicals of things. Alcohol, absolutely. The highly processed salt, sugar, oil, flours, like all of that is going through our body. And so when the system starts to slow down because it's not functioning like it was intended to, because we're not putting the things in that we were intended to, then that's when we experience this slowdown of metabolic rate.
Yeah.
So dieting, right? So when we're in this, we're in a constant state of stress, or, maybe not diet, most crash diets, let's not say crash diets, because I feel like the trendy thing now is saying, oh, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle, when really it's a diet, So
it'd be cool if it was a lifestyle, but yes.
Well, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
But really, are these things that we're trying to make a lifestyle, are they really sustainable for a lifestyle? Are we made to have that as a lifestyle?
No.
I don't think so. No. We're not made to have to eat packaged, food and take shots and all of this just to maintain a healthy body weight set point. So over time, the more diet cycles that we're on, the more impact it has on these organs. Yeah. And so that's where it makes it harder and harder to sustain weight loss, because not only now is the metabolic system functioning lower, is we've also got this dysfunctional relationship with food and body and self-worth and all of that, right? Like that all plays a role, because remember, it's not just diet, but it's lifestyle. And so if my lifestyle doesn't also shift in relation with how I'm consuming, what I'm consuming, it doesn't matter how great it was, it's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So everything works until it doesn't. So this was my life for about, all the latter of my teens, up through my 20s, up through probably mid 30s. Okay. And exercise and a very unhealthy relationship with exercise really played a role in that, because I found that if I did have a binge, I fell off the diet wagon, I could just go pay for it, make up for it in the gym. Yeah. And so there's actually a word for that now. It's called exercise bulimia. I had no idea that that's what it was.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Because you're purging, right? You're trying to. And you've heard the term, you can't outwork a bad diet. But I felt, and when we're young, we can. We can. Yeah. So I would go run or go do all the things to punish myself for the way that I let myself go in that food, whatever it was, or the amount of food. So years of this led me to a point where I eventually, and I touched a little bit on this in the last podcast, I started to develop issues. I was exhausted all of the time, and I like, that was probably the main factor, chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
My blood work was kind of all over the place. My digestion was horrible. Developed IBS and reflux. And I also had the type 2 diabetes that I would reverse and then it would come back, and I was still insulin resistant.
Yeah.
PCOS, Hashimoto's, which also is the thyroid.
Yeah.
So lupus is liver, Hashimoto's is thyroid, PCOS is, your reproductive system, along with endometriosis.
What does PCOS stand for?
Polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Okay.
Yes. So, and it's amazing how many women have these things now, whereas it didn't really exist, probably 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, so all of this started to happen. And for the first time in my life, it wasn't now about the weight. It wasn't about the vanity. It was about the vitality.
Yeah.
It was about that I needed to heal and I needed to feel good for my children, for the lifestyle that we had. I have a special needs son. He's my oldest, and he's going to need me for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I was sleeping like 15, 20 hours a day. And I could have cared less what I looked like. I could have cared less what my weight was. Now my intention, my motivation started to shift into healing, to recover my body, to heal my body. And of course, my blood work was within normal range in many states, or in many markers.
And if you're just listening, those were air quotes.
Air quoting.
In normal range.
Yes, I forgot. Not everybody. Yes. I'm doing lots of air quotes during this whole thing. Finding. But there's, that's where, looking at symptoms, I started to really dig in. And as I wasn't an integrative holistic nutritionist at this point. I was just a holistic nutritionist.
Okay.
So a little bit different. So lab work, healing really wasn't a thing. And so all that to say, I immediately, and I'm just being open and honest here, I immediately went into the AIP paleo protocol. AIP was the autoimmune protocol.
Gotcha.
For paleo. Mm-hmm. So eliminating all grains, all legumes, all processed food, all dairy. That to eliminate all that and really focus on organ meat and bone broth and all of these things, which I found
real
repulsive.
Food?
Well, I found those things repulsive. Like I'm trying to get organ meat.
Yeah.
I'm trying to drink bone broth because that's what the literature said I needed to do to heal myself. Again, everything works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
Emotionally, spiritually, I could not sustain that because it was repulsive to me. I had an aversion to it all. Yeah. So it wasn't sustainable. Meanwhile, my belief system with carbohydrates and type 2 diabetes was, I can't, and coming from type 2 diabetes, I can't eat carbohydrates, can't do rice, can't do, grains, can't do any of that because I'm insulin resistant and I need to really keep my carbohydrates low. Well, I fiend for carbohydrates. I would dream of being somebody that could eat a whole plate of fruit and not crash afterwards. I'm just throwing that out there. So I'm going to table that. So I had gone back to school for integrative holistic nutrition, and they taught a lot about a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, not vegan, whole food, plants. And do I believe...
Can you just separate those out?
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. So vegan, especially now in our culture, there's a lot of vegan junk. Lab made, chemical made, that is not real food. Mm-hmm. It's highly processed, highly palatable. Yep. People think, just because it's vegan, so it must be healthier. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, it's actually not. So vegan is just an elimination of animal products. Yep. That's what vegan is. Mm. What whole food plant-based is an accumulation of all things whole foods. So meaning grains, legumes, fruit, nuts, seeds, berries, mushrooms, that whole world, that whole plant world, which to me had always been so carbohydrate heavy. Like I can't have even half of that. I have to, focus on the meat and the protein. I need more protein, more protein, more protein. Remember, the metabolic system, one of the organs is also the kidneys. So, and kidneys process what? Protein, right? So here I'm having lupus, liver, eating high protein, kidneys, Hashimoto's, thyroid, meanwhile, adrenal fatigue because of all of the years of dieting. So my entire metabolic system was crashing.
Yeah.
So I talked to my husband. He also was a witness. He was having to pick up the slack. The boys of my children were little. He had to pick up the slack as a dad, right? Meanwhile, his wife is sick. Meanwhile, she shouldn't be sick because of, we live now in this lifestyle of paleo living. We're now avid worker outers, and we had been for at that point like the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And here all of a sudden I'm sick and they don't even know what's wrong, in and out of the hospital with gut and digestion issues and chronic fatigue, and nobody knows what's happening. So he actually suggested, hey, you're learning about whole food plant-based in school. Why don't you try that? And I'm like, oh no, I can't do that. I can't consume all those carbohydrates. Other people can. I might be able to teach it one day, but I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so because the pain of this, my pain position was so high, at that point, I didn't care if I were to gain 30, 40 pounds, if it would make me feel better and help heal my body.
Yeah.
So we had said, okay, let's try it for 90 days and see what happens. Him too.
Yeah.
Because he wanted me to feel supported. He also wanted to see me get better, and also knows that within the rhythm of a household, it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right. So we ventured on this 90-day experiment to see if in fact I would feel better. Well, crazy things started to happen. Crazy stuff. Where I was having so much energy that I would vacuum at like 10 o'clock at night. He had all kinds of ailments from skins. He had psoriasis of the skin, lots of allergies when it came to environmental allergies, different food allergies.
Okay.
And all of that within even just a month and a half started to absolve. I started to feel better, started to get my vitality back. And so the 90 days was up, and we're like, well, what do we do now? Well, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
And so to this day, we have not, does that say that one day maybe we might bring meat and animal products back in? Maybe one day.
Yeah.
We'll see. But here's the thing about the nutrition space is it's always nuanced. It's always changing. There's nothing ever consistent, but neither are we.
Yeah.
Neither are
always changing.
So maybe the whole food plant-based was for a season of healing, and then bringing in, animal products as we see fit. But here's the thing with that too. It's bio-individual.
Yeah.
It's all individual. So when I'm talking about my personal story, I found that most people, because we have packed our bodies with chemicals, additives, industrial raised meat that's injected with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of toxic load in our bodies that we need to just detox from.
Yeah.
And so what a whole food plant-based lifestyle offered to me was this massive detox. Yeah. And as a side result of that, of vitality, the weight started to come off and be sustainable.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a matter of me going out, I need to lose, at this point, I will say at this point, it was about 70 pounds because I had maintained the previous weight with exercising like crazy and restricting like crazy and high protein and low carb, but it wasn't ever sustainable. It left me in that diet cycle of, okay, this weekend I really fell off the wagon and I'm going to start again on Monday, but I was able to keep up with that. So the weight loss actually started to become a symptom and a side effect of feeling better and healing my body. Mm-hmm. And once the foundation of food, now let me also pause here. I I teach a whole food plant-based lifestyle. However, that does not have to be, all or nothing. I teach more plants, basically more micronutrients.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to side note that because even my people will reach out to me and be like, well, do I have to go whole food plant-based to work with you? No, I'm going to teach you about nutrition, real nutrition, micronutrients, and not just macronutrients. Yeah. We're going to go that way. So when we live a hypernutrition lifestyle, when we live that lifestyle, we think of food as what's in this food, what is the source of this food, and we're getting in all of this micronutrition, this metabolism starts to detox, it starts to heal, and it starts to rev back up again and start working like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Completely. Can you walk through like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just to give people an idea of, because I remember Rob Wolf talking, who wrote the paleo solution back in the day. So paleo nutrition seems to work well for a lot of people. If you get good, healthy meat, not the lunch meat from, Walmart, is, I grew up on buttage meat. I don't know if you remember buttage meat, but there was
that in the package with the red lid. No,
I don't know if it was a red lid.
Okay.
I remember a package. I remember
processed.
Buttage. It was so greasy. Like it was like,
okay.
But I loved it as a kid. You didn't know any better when you were 12. Yeah. It's just, this tastes delicious.
Absolutely.
But so people push back on, I don't know if I could eat paleo. And then he would come back with like, well, hey, for breakfast, have you ever had like some eggs and some avocado and maybe some berries? Oh yeah, I've had that before. Okay, great. For lunch, have you ever had like a big salad with, I don't know, some salmon on it, or with oh yeah, I've had that. Oh great. Okay, well that's fantastic. For dinner, have you ever had like a nice piece of fish or a steak or something with some vegetables? And oh yeah, I've had that. Okay, well you've eaten paleo. We just now have to put these together,
right?
For these. So I guess I'm kind of going a similar route here in the way of what the heck do you eat?
Yeah. Well, before I go into that, I just want to highlight like paleo and whole food plant-based. What are they both eliminating?
Yes, the crap.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we can get lost in the what to eat, what not to eat, but really the focus of this whole changing your lifestyle and your diet, the focus is to eat real food. So and I say this all of the time, like in my social media, do not get lost in all of the nuances.
Yeah.
Do not get lost in, can I have avocado? Can I not? Can I have eggs? Can I not? Is it real?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, then yes. Yeah. If it's been processed and it's in a package, then the answer is probably not going to serve your body well because your body isn't made for that. Yeah. Right? So even when we're looking at protein powders and protein bars and, no sugar things and low calorie things, we're so confused in this nutrition space. If I were to hold up a sugar-free, gluten-free, vegan muffin, right, from a local bakery, or hold up a banana, I'm going to get very different answers as to which one is more healthy.
Yeah.
Right? So people are going to be like,
sugar content in the banana,
exactly.
Your blood sugar will spike. And it's
all the sugar in the banana, all the carbohydrates, whereas this one is gluten-free, it's sugar-free, right? So really, how confused and how sad are we as a culture when it comes to nutrition?
Yeah.
So we find that confusion leads to stagnation.
Yeah. And
we're more confused now than we've ever been when it comes to food. So eat more plants. I mean, if you're eating the omelet, how can I get more micronutrients? Now remember, this may be really elementary, but I never want to assume.
No, don't assume on this show. Let's be clear.
Macronutrients are your three ones that everybody talks about. Protein, carbs, and fat. Yep. Micronutrients are all the other things that our body is actually made up of. Yeah. And we're taught to count calories as in nutrition, or let's say not even in dieting. Yeah. Where they say calories are king, calories are king. Well, if we think about this metabolic system, right? Actually, nutrients are king. Yeah. Micronutrients are king. So if we, instead of counting calories, if we count micronutrients, my body is going to process this banana far better and far quicker than this muffin, even though the banana calories may be higher. Because it's real. It's micronutrients. The body knows what to do with it, right? So if we're putting in food that our body doesn't know what to do with, it's just going to sit there. And then the body starts shoving it away to figure out, I don't know what to do with this chemical right now, but I do know that I need calories for energy. So I'm just going to shove this chemical, this additive to the side until I can work on it later. So that's where it gets shoved into our fat cells. And that's why when we go to work out, we just don't burn crazy fat, because now this fat cell, and I've got my hand, I'm like doing a shell around this fat cell. Now it's got toxins, chemicals, additives, preservatives, pesticides all around this fat cell that the body can't even tap into the fat cell now to utilize it for energy. So the reason why I'm even sharing that is because I just want to, before we go into giving an example of the food that I personally eat, it's important to remember that if we simply eat real food, the food that the body was designed to consume, our results are going to be like night and day. Will it be as fast? No, because your body's sick. Everybody that has done packaged and processed foods, the metabolism, those organs are not functioning in the way they were intended to function. So there's going to be time where you're detoxing, you're schlepping out a lot of this junk that's slowing your body down. So by consuming real food, of course, it's going to be slower. It's going to take more time. But that's where it must align with a belief system now. We can't just change what we eat without changing our belief system around food. If our belief system around food is constantly good or bad, deserve it or don't deserve it, it's always going to be this idea of, did I earn it? Did I not? We're not even thinking about what's in that food. So when we see food different, when we change our belief system around food and say, did this grow? Is this what my body was made for? That's a belief system. And so when we change that belief system, then we can change what we're doing consistently over time. People often think that I'm pretty restrictive. I don't feel restrictive at all. Why? Because I enjoy the food. I love the way that I feed my body with integrity and with honor. Does that mean that I don't occasionally eat the packaged thing? Maybe 10% of the time. If there's a new product, I want to try it at a protein bar that doesn't maybe have dairy in it, I want to try it. Sure. I'm not getting lost in that. But I also know that those things, all packaged things, are created with addiction in mind. And there's different levels of addiction for different people. There's level 1 addiction, level 2, and level 3. And for me, coming from, an obese upbringing, addiction played a really big role. So there's certain ingredients in these packaged foods. And let me say, food addiction isn't all food. Food is, we should say, processed food addiction. Because we're not addicted to a bowl of broccoli. But
I got some hankering for some cauliflower. Oh my gosh.
You sometimes. I mean, but don't tell anybody.
Can't wait.
No friends. If that gets out, I do sometimes crave that, but not from an addictive standpoint. Absolutely. So these products are made with that in mind because they know that if we keep coming back to the source because we feel powerless to it or because, it's part of the experience and it triggers the dopamine in the brain, we're going to over time hurt ourselves with those things. So that belief system is a big part to see things different because we can't, this is a little cliche, but we can't see things different until we see things different. So when you go to the grocery store, look at people's carts, look at what's in their carts, look at the ingredients on the back of the package.
Judge them.
Well,
look at them and judge.
I feel sad. I feel sad because I was them too. Good intentioned people, right? I see people even, so let's talk about the plant-based thing that's happening now. Now there's plant-based everything. I see people with good intentions with the plant-based sausage, the vegan sausage and the vegan deli meat and the vegan cheeses loaded up in their cart. And all I
we
had
had the
to
same
do,
thing with gluten. However many years ago, gluten-free this, gluten-free this, gluten-free this. Oh, it's gluten-free. It must be good.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas I see their cart and I'm like, oh, they just don't know.
Yeah.
They just don't know. We're hearing just enough to be dangerous to ourselves when it comes to this conversation of nutrition. Does that make sense?
It does.
Do you agree?
I almost sneezed right there. I'm sorry.
Okay. That was like a sign.
I want to sneeze directly into the mic. Well, and sorry, where my mind went, we were talking about this before we hit record. I'm very frustrated with all these influencers who, with their YouTube channels and podcasts and stuff like that, who they're just yearning for content. You know, they're just yearning because that YouTube video that they made 6 months ago, now nobody's watching. So they had to come up with something new and something new and something new and something new. And so like, all of a sudden they go down these rabbit holes of like, you know, oh my gosh, if you don't use red light therapy, your body's going to fall apart. I think red light therapy is great, but like, do you need it to be happy, healthy, and strong, or can you do other things? And I really think the reason why we are more obese and overweight and out of shape than ever is because our food system has literally just created food that is more delicious and more amazing than we've ever had ever. Because this is not this food that we're eating now is not the food that we grew up on, and it's not the food our parents grew up on, and it's definitely not the food that our grandparents grew up on. They grew up on what you just described there in the way of, hey, this is real food. They had to grow stuff, you know. They had to go down to the local butcher and like he butchered it, and it was probably mostly a clean animal as opposed to all the antibiotics that are inserted in them today. And it was
a luxury.
Yes.
Like meat was very expensive.
Yes.
So they weren't eating it 6 times a day.
Very good point.
Every single day.
Yeah.
A pound. I just saw a reel this morning and she's like, you need to eat a pound of meat a day of red meat or 2 pounds of white meat. I'm like, if every person, were we really designed to eat that much meat? It was a luxury. So going back to nutrition in that, I didn't mean to, I just want to like land on like, we forget the culture was different. The birthday cake was special. Whereas now if we feel like birthday cake, we can just go to Schnucks and grab a birthday cake. I can eat it on a Tuesday.
They're all right there.
You know?
You're not wrong. Perfectly frozen. They look amazing. I don't know who's decorating those cakes, but they do good work.
Sure. And it's to draw us in. So we don't have to wait for the birthday now to have the cake. We don't have to wait for the festival to kill the fattened calf. Right? So we're just all over. Right? So your grandparents that went down to the butcher, you guys, they weren't eating meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was too expensive. Let alone, you know, the Paleolithic times. They ate plants when there wasn't animals to eat. And then when there wasn't plants, they ate the animals. But we're not smart enough, or we're not aware enough. We're not in tune enough to see that. All we're in tune enough to see is it's an option. Even in plants, right? We're not meant to eat watermelon in January in the Midwest.
We are not.
Or drinking a fruit smoothie, right? But so yeah, you're right. You were on a roll with grandparents picking up from the butcher. It wasn't the same food that it is even now.
Yes, 100%. Well, and that's just where I think we are. Because now all of a sudden, if the average American should be consuming, I'm making up whatever, 2,000 calories or now it's so easy to overeat that amount every single day. Because all these packaged foods have a little bit more, you know, calories in them, nestled together to make them taste so amazing. And, you know, instead of getting 2,000, we get 2,600. And that's not a big deal for a day, but you do that every day for years on years on years on years on years. And it makes complete sense why we're overweight. Not, and then to go with your point, to throw all the other negatives of having the processed foods with the preservatives and pesticides and like it's pretty obvious why we're here. And you look at it and be like, well, I don't want to dumb it down, but I love that, because I hear this, you know, just looking at it from the athletes too, because it's interesting to the athletes that we train. So much of the athletic training piece and driving athletic performance is you have to create the athlete as a whole. And this is having a volleyball player have all the skills, like not only just jumping and landing, but they need to run and sprint, change direction and squat and be healthy in the same breath. Like our female athletes should be having their regular period. And if they're not, there's something wrong with the system. And it might be working right now, the second, but just give it a little bit before it starts to fall off. Yeah. And maybe it's okay now, but come college, things explode. And I think the same thing with adults. Like I don't know if it's, to fix the body as a whole, and then to watch what happens, to watch the fat loss happen because you feel good, because from the inside out, you're giving your body what it needs, versus, again, it's so easy to eat the crap. They put it at the very front of the store. You walk in, at just Schnucks, and we actually went to Schnucks today, really quick. And then football's coming up, and you walk in before the registers. They have chips, like right at the door. I don't know if they're running out of room at Schnucks, but like as you walk in, the sliding doors, you could take one and run away. Yeah. But like that's the first thing they want you to see, and the last thing to see, when you go. I need chips for the Bears game. Like, yeah. Sorry, I tangented this.
Well, it all plays a role. Yeah. It all plays a role. And to circle back to what you were saying, we are consuming more calories than ever, but we're more undernourished than we've ever been.
Yeah.
So we're
strike one, strike two.
Exactly. So the reason why eating real food gets us in a beautiful place of vitality and natural body weight set point. And by the way, we don't get to pick our natural body weight set point. I don't get to say, I think I want to be 135 pounds. I don't know what my body wants to be. All I know is that when I nourish it, it's going to find a natural set point that is right for it. Yeah. Right. So little side note on that. But when we eat real food, now these nutrients, we are actually nourished and we're actually satiated. How many times have you gone out for like all you can eat Chinese buffet and you're so full?
It's been a while, but yeah.
I know. I'm like going way back in the reserves here, but we would leave Chinese. And then by the time we drive home, we'd be getting out ice cream. Because we weren't satiated. We were full, but we weren't satiated. Yeah. So
not a lot of nutrition in all you can eat Chinese food.
Right. So when we talk about satiation, this is where we bring in the conversation about balance and your macros, as well as your hypernutrition. I will tell you, every time I crave junk food, every time, I know that I'm not getting enough plants, meaning leafy greens, big salads, and even protein. Yeah. So, and for me, that's legumes, tempeh, beans, tofu, all organic is what I focus on. But I always know that if I'm craving like to just go to some restaurant and order whatever, I always know that's my body telling me I need more of what it needs, because you're not actually craving pizza. You're craving fat, protein, carbohydrate. Yeah. And once you go get a meal, a real food meal with protein, carbohydrate, and fat and hypernutrients, meaning greens, vegetables, things along those lines, then all of a sudden you're like, you eat that and you're like, I don't really want the pizza now, or I would be satisfied with a couple bites of pizza. It's that we're so undernourished as a country. Yeah. And we are made to seek out highly palatable, high caloric density things. Why? Because the body's made to survive. Yeah. Right. So if we're underfed, we're going to go, say we're in the hunter-gatherers. We're going to put in the effort to go hunt down an animal because it's higher caloric, it's higher fat, it's going to be more bang for your energy. Also think about nuts. I mean, that's a very simple thing. We're over here buying a bag of walnuts at Costco, eating handfuls of them. Meanwhile, how hard is it to crack open a walnut? Yeah. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort. We're not eating cups of them. We're eating like 3 or 4. Yeah. Right? So when we just take it back to natural design and we shift our belief system with natural design and we see everything else as... I'm just going to throw this out in a way of drama, but like a demonic design, the opposing to keep us fat, sick, and exhausted, right? What is it? 60 to 70% of the grocery store is designed for us to eat those highly palatable, under nutrient dense foods that leave us exhausted, overweight, sick, wanting more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can either choose to be part of that system, because remember, we can't do better until we know better. And we've got to change our perspective when it comes to if I see things different, I start to see things different.
Yeah.
If I see the strategic placement of things and I see how I'm like a rat going to the trap over and over and over again because of the addiction that I'm facing.
Yeah.
Right. And we tend to downplay addiction.
Yeah.
And it's very real. Why do we do the things in which we don't want to do? Addiction, the definition of addiction is continued use despite adverse consequences. So if I'm continuing to eat these things despite adverse consequences, weight, health, vitality, there's addiction.
Yeah.
And it plays a big role. So am I going to say, okay, you got me, I surrender to the addiction? Or am I going to say, I can't even believe that happened. I can't even believe that this is where I'm at now. And I desire empowerment over this system.
Yeah.
So going down that trail to understand that we're more undernourished than we've ever been, even though we're bigger in size than we've ever been. So there's something not lining up there.
Exactly. Which is weird to think about. You'd be like, oh, we're as healthy as, or not even healthy.
We're ready for the famine.
Exactly. Because we're so, but no, it's funny to, if we're going to hit all these blood levels or whatever, hit these weight levels on things, and then you get blood work done and you're deficient in all these things. Like, well, how can you be completely overweight and also deficient in, so many things?
Yeah.
So many things.
Yeah. So teaching a hyper nutrient focused lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think of, okay, the stomach is only as big as a bowl. So how many nutrients can I get into my body until I'm full?
Yeah.
Because these nutrients, if the body is sick, then why are we putting in medication to heal it? The body is made up of nutrients. So to heal the body, we give the body more nutrients. And that's what plants are.
Yeah.
Plants are micronutrients. Yes, there's still some micronutrients in animal flesh as well. That's not negated, but we want to hyper nourish the body. And when we do that consistently over time, the body starts to heal itself.
Yeah.
We don't heal our body. The things we put into our body heals our body.
Yeah. What's your take on, and you kind of said it earlier, I just don't want people getting too one way or the other.
Yeah.
We just picked up our portion of our beef that we get every year.
Yeah.
From Plum River Farms. They some of the happiest cows you've ever seen in your entire life. They're in this pasture with a big hill, a lot of trees, not good farmland. No pesticides, no anything. Like, these are just the happiest cows you've ever seen in the world. They will, if they have to use an antibiotic because some cow gets sick or something like that, they will use it in dire straits.
Sure.
But they will avoid it at all, as much as they possibly can. And then even they're, to put down the animal, they do it they try to do it in the most stress-free way possible, just so the animal doesn't get all worked up, and like a lot of cortisol gets released through through the animal at its in the last few minutes of moments, and then you get that within the meat and stuff like that. If you're looking at animals such as that, I don't want to get people too far one way or the other. What's your let's be straight with it. What's your take on consuming that type of? We already hit the buttage meat. Buttage meat, terrible.
Costco hot dogs, terrible.
We went to the Boone County Fair. Oh my gosh!
I see eating Costco hot dogs. That's why it just blows my mind. But you went to the fair.
Well, no, and everything's on a stick. The corn dog on a stick. My little says, "Dad, can I get one of those?" No, child. That's not.
It looks so fun.
They're so
Everybody
big.
has them.
Like, how is this hot dog so large? It's insane. But what's your take on, because we're rolling down the plant way, and again, this is to we poked fun of Dave Asbury earlier, who's the bulletproof coffee guy and whatnot, and he rips on kale because kale. What does kale have in it?
Oxalates.
And those are bad in some capacity.
I can talk about that too. And don't forget forget Dr. Gundry, who talked about lectins and oxalates. We're basically killing ourselves with real plants that grow from the earth.
Yes.
We're killing ourselves, guys.
And
sarcasm. If you can't see my face, it's all sarcasm.
Well, and that's where, and you made this point earlier, like everybody's a little bit different.
Everybody.
There might be people who struggle with, because plants grow out of the ground. They're not running around like animals and stuff like that. They have to defend themselves in some capacity. So if they were too too delicious, animals would come, eat them all, and then they'd be dead. So like you have to have something that kind of protects you in some way. And so I know a lot of plants have some small little bit of protection that could, versus a fruit, where fruits are meant to be eaten because they're so stinking sweet. Animals get the seed, fly away, and then poop, and hey, now we're growing new trees, and hey, we're done. Because I see meat being in a similar deal. It's obviously working for you, and it's fantastic. I'm curious to know, like, if you see this working for everyone, or where that role, where does actual animal product fit within your thoughts?
So it's interesting because this has been a big conversation in my household recently. So let me first say, because you said a lot of things here.
I babbled. I'm sorry.
So no, it's okay. The general population is not consuming the animal products that you're consuming.
Yeah.
The general population, number one, doesn't know the source. Number two, probably can't, or they probably could, but they don't prioritize the integrity of where their meat comes from, nor are they even connecting with even this conversation in that.
I love it. Like I didn't know I would, when we first got it, I'm like, oh, this is just healthy meat, grass-fed meat, da, 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 da. I fall in love with the process. Like this is like, we go
it's supposed to be.
And we go and we meet the cows and not the one we got, but like the other ones that are like, on their way. And these are just, it's so, if I'm a cow, this is the life I want to live. Like it's so, they're happy cows. They're doing their thing. They have other animals too, but like, it's just such a neat, like humane process to whatever circle of life here and whatnot. I didn't realize that I would, like, obviously I like the meat, but I didn't realize I would fall in love with the process as much as I have.
Yeah. Well, and you love it because that's how God intended it to be.
You're not wrong.
They're animals. People that raise animals aren't called farmers anymore. They're called growers. Seriously. Beef growing. Chicken growing. They are not being farmed.
Yeah.
So the average population doesn't consume animal products like you and your family. Yep. There's a very small percentage of America that gets their animal products from a sustainable source with integrity. Yeah. So that's not the problem. The problem is the industrial raised meat and animal products, because it's it's being shortcutted in every way, shape, and form, let alone, we talk about, you mentioned the stress response of the slaughter process, of the cortisol, the anxiety, the fear, the depression that this animal lives in. Yeah. Well, most of America that eats, you go to a restaurant, you're not getting meat with integrity. Yeah. You're going to a fast food restaurant, you're not getting meat with integrity. No. You're getting these animals that have been put through this trauma. All of these trauma endorphins and hormones have been released into their flesh. Then we consume their flesh. And then all of a sudden we're in an epidemic of anxiety and depression ourselves as a culture. Don't tell me that's coincidence. Yeah. We're eating more meat than we've ever eaten ever in the history of America. And a lot of it's being because we're so protein centric. We're such proteinaholics in our country. Oh, you got a problem? You need more protein. Don't ever start your day without at least 30 grams of protein, especially if you want hormone regulation. And what does 30 grams of protein looks like? It looks like this many eggs, this much cottage cheese, like we are so protein focused, but we're not getting better. No, we're not getting better. So I just wanted to point at that.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Also, because again, just to reiterate, most people are not even thinking of the source. They're not thinking of what's in the meat. Yeah. They're just trusting that if it's sold and it's pretty, then it's fine. Yeah. Okay. So where does that play a role? I believe that everything comes in seasons. We're made to cycle all the time. Mm-hmm. So if, say you work with me and you get super educated on hypernutrition and we're hyper nourishing your body. And for a little while, we take out animal products just for a little while. Why? So we can get your body cleaned out. We can get things functioning the way that they were intended with all of this hyper nourishment.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you live that way for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
No. Maybe, as you feel ready, I always say it's also a spiritual, there needs to be a spiritual confirmation. Yeah. Like if you feel at peace with having it, then bring it back in. If you don't, then leave it back out. Yeah. And learning to be intuitive with what we're eating versus trying to be educational with what we're eating. Yeah. Is very important. Yeah. Because if we listen to our bodies, if we listen to what we have an aversion to, I think of touching slimy, gross chicken that I used to buy by the bulk at Sam's Club, frozen, and it would just be like falling apart. And I would just be like, just cook it. I got to get X amount of grams per day, for weight loss, for,
air quotes again, friends, air quotes.
Lots of chicken, boiled chicken, have you in that way. There was an aversion inside of me to not want to eat that, but I forced myself to eat that. So taking that out, my body felt really nice. Yeah. Taking all of that out, my body felt like it was getting the breath that it needed, but I didn't trust it. Yeah. So do animal products, you got a message.
No, you're fine.
His kids are out there trying to communicate and they want an electrolyte drink.
Yes.
Is that what
that's what that is.
The logo?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Minty.
Yes,
it's a good one.
Yes. Twin always seems to need something, which is entertaining. Now it's upside down.
They do it now in these moments because they know you'll just be like, yeah, whatever.
Yes.
You want.
That's
feel free to give him the thumbs up, Dad.
I love saying no to this child. I've gotten really, really good.
That was so creative, though. He drew the logo.
He is. Yes, he does. There's always wit.
So it's like they get it on us, right?
Yeah, they do. They do. Creative and funny, they are.
So I just, I also want to say there, when you look at macrobiotics, like I said about the watermelon, are we created to eat watermelon in the dead of winter? No, our gut microbiome changes. Mm-hmm. The way our body assimilates things changes. The way that, photosynthesis, when we're in the sun and we're eating lots and lots of green plants, that's a natural sunscreen. Mm-hmm. So we're eating lots of plants in the summer when the sun is at its hottest and it's at its highest and its longest. So when I'm really expanding here, not to bring any confusion, but to kind of just allow ourselves to go into that way of thinking just for a moment of how it's all created for purpose in strategic cycles.
Yeah. Where my mind is going here. Oh my gosh, I had two thoughts. What was the first one? No, go away. Not you listeners. Listeners,
the children are trying another source. Or they're going to try another window.
Run a podcast here. Be good. No, but I remember, and this might have been a Rebels Paleo Solution book, but the Catavans, who are I want to say they're, in Mexico, something like that. They eat an enormous amount of, because when people trying to vilify carbs, they eat an enormous amount of sweet potatoes and yams.
Yeah.
Enormous amount.
Okinawans.
Is that what it is?
It's the Okinawans, Okinawa, Japan.
There was somebody in Mexico too.
Okay.
I forget who else.
Oh, you said they're paleo though.
Yes.
These are like 90 to 100% plant-based.
Okay.
Okinawans,
gotcha.
Which are the longest living culture in the entire world.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So like
pretty close.
You can do it, but then you also have your like, oh my gosh, what's it? Your Eskimo-ish population where you're not growing sweet potatoes in Alaska. Right. And so you're eating a lot of, animal product. But it's healthy animal product,
they're made for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Their biome is made for it.
And both of them are healthy. Like they're not dying of heart disease and having type 2 diabetes the way we do. So like, I love your take on that because again, there are different ways you can, and it could be a season. We're in between Mexico and Alaska, so the idea of like being a little bit more in the middle where come summer, like you said, we destroy all the vegetables. Eat them all. Yes. Come winter, it might be a different thing. Yeah. And the scary thing might be, and I hope I would think you would agree with this. Let me know if you don't. But now all of a sudden, if I'm trying to eat that watermelon in June or in January, where did it come from and what the heck is in it? Because it had to be grown, it had to be put on a truck, and it had to come all the way up here to Rockford, Illinois. And it looks so green and beautiful, you know, in the box at Aldi. Is it green? Is it green and beautiful, or is it infested with, you know, all the
appeal?
Yes,
and GMOs,
and then it makes it hard. Like, and so that's
yeah.
Again, just to your point, I just think that there are different seasons of things. So, like, what I appreciate about this conversation, nobody here is being insanely dogmatic and be like, no, you only eat plant. Like, it just makes sense.
Yeah,
Things change, and people can be healthy doing different things. But it's got to be real food at the end of the day.
Right. And that's why I really land on teaching more so blue zones. So I live whole food plant-based 100%. But blue zones, if you're familiar with the blue zones, are you familiar with the blue zones?
Kind of, but you better explain it.
Yeah. So it's different parts of the entire world that live with the least amount of cancer, disease, and have the longest or longevity.
Yes.
So they live the longest. One of them, one of the blue zones is in Loma Linda, California, and they are Seventh-day Adventists, religious sect.
Okay.
And they can.
I'm not familiar.
It's the only one in the United States.
Okay.
A blue zone that's in the United States.
Okay.
There's one in Sardinia, Italy. There's also an awesome documentary that just came out probably 6 months ago. Dan Buettner put out. He wrote the book, or he's done the research on the blue zones. But there's actually a small documentary on Netflix. I think it's only like 5 parts, but it's fascinating. So what we're finding, not what we are finding, what has been found is that our more plant-focused, real food lifestyles are the ones that win the longevity race.
Yeah.
So the Okinawans that I mentioned, right? They eat 70 to 80% all root vegetables.
Okay.
So purple potatoes, the Japanese potatoes, starch, heavy starch, right? So here we are, we're demonizing starch. I think we're just getting lost on what we demonize. We can't keep demonizing real whole food plant carbohydrates and starch and fruits and vegetables. We cannot keep demonizing this, because really the thing to demonize is the packaged food.
Yeah.
If we both ate 90%, even for me, when I start getting my body starts with more inflammation and a little more adipose tissue, a little, fat back on. And I can even explain a little bit more about that in a minute, but I know that I'm probably not at my 90% whole foods, that I've gotten into some gluten-free breads. There's some, going to our local Pig Minds, which is a vegan brewery, or having French fries, having the stuff that's processed and fried and sugar laden. And all I have to do is get back to baseline, which get back in alignment of what is real, and the weight just takes care of itself. It finds its equilibrium again. So it's almost tragic. I love going down the conversation of like all of the fun little nuances, but I think it's doing a disservice to the general population. Yeah. So when I post, I drink a thing I call it mermaid water. It's blue-green algae that I let blossom in the sun, and then I filter off the top and I drink the water. The water is full of omega-3s, because it's an algae. Okay. It's basically, so think of rivers and streams, right? The algae would grow on the rocks and the water would run. And so when you would drink the water, you'd get all these minerals and algae and omegas in the water. Which is funny, because what people really think about it is like fish poop and, bear urine and blah, blah, blah. But yes, there might be some of that. But the algae filters it out. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. More good than bad here. Yeah. But maybe not the Rock River, but... No, you will get Giardia, which is a horrible parasite. Oh, you do not want that. Bacterial parasite. So every time I post something that people don't know about, they're
Yeah.
like, ooh, what is that? And I link it to like my Amazon favorites. I'll see those insights go way up because everybody wants something shiny and new. Like but then they'll go to Starbucks and get the caramel, triple pump, whatever. I don't even know.
It sounded good.
Thing.
Venti, latte.
Sure. Yeah.
Frupa.
And then go and be burdening themselves with all of these little hacks. Like I get so much feedback when I post in my sauna or in our cold plunge or a salt magnesium hot tub. Like people want these things because they're shiny and new. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we just get back to the basics, and give it consistency over time.
Yeah.
I'm not a superhero because I've managed to sustainably keep off 120 pounds. Yeah. It's not.
You kind of are, but
but I shouldn't. I should be. I shouldn't be. Yeah. Right. It just shows that real food. So I say 3 things in my practice: eat real food, move the body, heal the soul. And healing the soul is stress, trauma, our relationship even with God, our spiritual, because we are a trifecta. We're a body, we're a mind, and we're a spirit. And so we cannot expect to just heal this body and think that it's separate than the mind and the spirit. Yeah. So all 3 in tandem. I say all the time, you can eat all the kale in the world, but if you're stressed out and you're living in a state of trauma, you're not going to get better. Mm-hmm. So kind of put that pin in that one.
Yeah. I like to come back to your shiny object thing. I might make the argument that sometimes these shiny objects will add stress to a system.
Absolutely.
That doesn't need any more stress. Because I find myself to be a relatively tough human being. And so the sauna, the cold plunge stuff, like I get excited with.
Yeah.
45 minutes in the sauna, let's do an hour and a half, 3 minutes in cold plunge, let's do 10, How cold can we make it,
A
little...
I'm going to up my time.
Exactly.
Crush it.
But I do think that also, like, stress is stress. Yeah. The stress that you feel, like when my wife hits a deer on the way to work, and the stress that comes from that. Yeah. The stress from having your, she'd teach her first day back at school, the stress of leaving your kids, that you're with them all. Now they're not there. The stress of, financial things, the stress of, now a sauna or a cold plunge, or it might put you over the top of too much stress. And I think sometimes people look at these, I mean, you nailed it perfectly. These little shiny hacks of something. Hey, I'm going to put butter in my coffee, and this is going to up my energy levels like you wouldn't believe. And, they try. It's not necessarily bad. Like, I don't know. I've had butter in my coffee before. Is it the most amazing thing? I know it's fine. I just think you're missing the foundation. And the foundation of what you're saying is that you eat that whole real food base of the pyramid, and to do that consistently is everything. And if you miss that, I don't know how unless you're 22, right. I don't know how you get away with it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. The cold plunge is good for a healthy body. But if your body's unhealthy and you're full of all of these toxins and your metabolic system is lethargic and not working well, that can actually make things worse. Yeah. The person teaching about putting butter in their coffee is a very healthy person.
Yes.
So then they put butter in their coffee and it maybe enhances their experience. The average person is not living in that state of health.
Yeah.
Now, if you are at a cool, consistent state of health and you're steady, you're solid on that, then we get to start going into the fun things. Yeah. So that's where after somebody's there.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. After somebody's there, then I get to go into the fun things like the heavy metal detoxification, the parasite conversations, even the liver detoxification. There's so much more you can stack on top of that. The problem is everybody wants to skip the foundation and start building the house on sand. Yeah. And so building all of that isn't going to get you well without that solid foundation.
Yeah.
So we love that stuff. I love that stuff. That's why I have those tools and those things. And that's why I make the algae water. And, you know, I love to share those. But what I found is the more I share that, the more confused people are.
Yeah.
And so I either get to contribute to that or I get to say, hold the phone.
Yeah.
When's the last time you had leafy greens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So many people.
Yeah.
You would not imagine how many people don't.
I had a salad in May, you know.
Right. I had pickles on my burger. That counts. That counts, right? But here's the thing with that, and I'm going to kind of divert on this. They're not getting vegetables because they're not eating vegetables because they're not craving vegetables, and they're not craving vegetables because they're not eating vegetables.
Yeah.
So we crave what we eat. So let me say that again. We crave what we eat.
Yeah.
If I crave chemical shitstorm, that means that's probably what I'm eating.
Yeah.
If I eat real whole hypernutrients, how many times have you heard from people like, oh my gosh, I actually want a salad. I want a smoothie because they've been eating them. They've been putting them in the body, and the body's like, oh my gosh, this is what I've wanted this whole time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'll go on vacation or something, and I'm like, by day 2, I'm like, we need to find a juice bar, something.
Yeah.
Because I'm fiending for a salad, you know, whereas the average person is like, what? That is weird. But you will crave what you eat. So you want to start craving vegetables, get them into your life.
Yeah.
And for many, many people, because they don't want them and they don't crave them, we got to start with a big, huge green smoothie every morning. Like I'm talking like 4 or 5 packed handfuls of power greens, stuffing it in the blender cup with some blueberries for antioxidants, some ground flax seeds for omega-3s. And I say to do a 7-day green smoothie challenge, because over time, by day 5, you're going to be like, oh, I actually am looking forward to my smoothie.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be easier to be like, oh, I think I'm going to steam up some broccoli to go with our whatever. Or does that make sense?
It does.
So we crave what we eat. So in the beginning, if you don't crave something you should eat, how can you work it into what you're already eating?
Yeah. So that was going to be question. You talked about, hey, my husband and I did this 90-day challenge, and which, I guess I'm curious, how did you, I mean, you got to the point where like, I mean, you're sleeping 20 hours a day. Like you're like, I can't do this anymore. You got to you're back against the wall. Hey, I have to, you had all the motivation in the world in which to make change. Is that, if I'm listening to this podcast right now, listeners are listening to this podcast right now, and they're looking to make change stuff. Do you recommend, hey, rip the Band-Aid right off. Tomorrow we're eating everything that's, you know, grown from the earth or has a face, depending on where you sit with the meat thing. You know, or is it because I really like that idea. Hey, we're going to make greens palatable, because I can't tell you how many adults we've had conversations. Well, I don't really like vegetables. Right. You're an adult. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Right. Yeah. My 9-year-old complains, but he's 9. Like, I'm okay with that. And I ignore him, and then he stops complaining, because it turns out if you complain and nobody listens, you just stop complaining. But like, if you're 49 years old, like, you should eat vegetables because you're an adult. And I don't have a nice way to say that. I probably said it nicer years ago, but now I don't care. Like, it's just, you be a grown up, eat real food, like, get over this. How do you recommend people start this journey? So whole food journey. Yeah.
If you do have a pain point, use that and really test it, because you're never going to know if you don't put your 100% in. Now, I will say, for the person coming from a tumultuous diet culture, diet mentality, that's going to be a setup for the rebounding to happen and for the food binge to happen after such 90 days. Like, I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to. So the way I teach is with dairy. First of all, we start with dairy. Dairy is the most inflammatory mucus forming substance that we can consume. Conventional dairy. I'm not talking about dairy you're buying in Italy and all of that. Conventional dairy, but it takes 9 to 14 days to really get it out of your body. The reason why we have to get dairy out first, that's our first step, is because when we consume dairy, there's a thick coating that goes around and down our stomach and all in our intestinal walls that keeps these micronutrients from actually being absorbed, because it's there to protect our intestinal tract, so that we because our body isn't really designed for this conventional dairy.
Yeah.
And so once we kind of schlep that out and we're able to eat things and actually become satiated because our body's actually assimilating it and digesting it, then we want to start crowding in.
Yeah.
I never like to do elimination with somebody that's coming from a diet mentality, because that just feels like restriction.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you mean I can't have Mountain Dew? No, I'm saying before you drink your Mountain Dew, drink an 8 to 10 ounce bottle of water. That's crowding out, right?
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to the Mountain Dew, you're not that thirsty. Now we've eliminated the thirst piece, and now we're just dealing with maybe the taste piece.
Yeah.
So it's the same way with food. Instead of saying, I've got to remove, all animal products starting on Monday, we say, okay, what would it look like to crowd in and have half my plate vegetables, half my plate or a fourth of my plate starches? Crowding in the things, also replacing. So say you're making, because you think of the standard family, you're not making 30 different dinners every month.
We are not.
No, the same 7.
Absolutely.
7, maybe 7, maybe less meals. You're making taco night, you're having spaghetti night. So just replacing those things that you put in there. Instead of doing ground hamburger, maybe you toss in some cooked lentils, or maybe some TVP, which is textured vegetable protein, organic, of course. Toss that in there and season it all the same. With tacos, looking up a lentil taco recipe. For chicken salad, doing chickpeas instead of chicken. It doesn't have to be 100%, but more plants, right? So more plants, less animal products, and just see what happens. Really stay curious, because we're going to find that the more plants we eat and the less animal products that we eat, the more functioning our body is going to become. Yeah. And that doesn't mean, again, even if you did say 90 days, that 90 days may all be that your body needed for a recalibration. We're almost 9 years in and we don't feel the need to integrate it back in. Does that mean maybe this winter we won't, change and go get a brisket from the local farmer? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
have a recommendation for you then.
Absolutely. I just want people to hear, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I tell people all the time, you don't have to be vegan to eat a plant-based meal.
No.
And when I say plant-based, I'm not talking about junk plant-based. I'm talking about plants, beans, legumes, grains. Like tonight for dinner, I'll tell you what I've already got prepped up. I go to the farmer's market every Wednesday up at Edgebrook. Okay. Sometimes I'll go to the one in Beloit on Saturday. Okay. I picked up 6 farm-grown bell peppers and a bunch of carrots and a couple heads of broccoli. So on Sunday, I washed and chopped all that, ready to go, so that is it Sunday? Yeah, Saturday. I did it on Saturday. So Monday night, when I knew my time would be limited, I'm going to throw it all in a pan. I'm going to take 3 things of tempeh. Tempeh is sprouted, fermented soybeans, organic only. Throw that in the pan, simmer it, and then put it over jasmine rice, which I'm going to throw in the Instant Pot. Yeah. Then a sauce that's based with cashews over top. And right there, what all do we have there macro-wise? What macros do we have?
That sounds pretty balanced in my mind.
Got high protein at the end of the day.
Carbohydrate.
We've got the carbohydrates, which is the jasmine rice.
Fats from the cashews.
Yeah. And then your broccoli, carrots, and bell peppers. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be mindful. Yeah. Mindful. Yeah. That's all. So people that'll do like a detox with me, I do a functional liver detox. It can be 7 to 21 days. Well, it's recommended that you eat plant-based during this time. Yeah. Whole food plant-based. I have to keep saying that because people see plant-based on a box of something. And I think that's a big deal too. Because again, going to the gluten thing, it's so easy. They sell you on all the stuff. Oh,
and that's where I joke with my wife that we almost got divorced over this, but she took me to a wedding, and it was a vegan wedding. I've never been so unsatiated in my entire life, but it was all this like, and like it was cooked, but it was like this. It was a bunch of fake food, meatballs that weren't meat.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is in there. They did a lot to make it taste good. Like I had no problem eating it. Like it was tasty. I did not feel satiated at the end of it. And it was interesting. But no, I think that's a big deal for people that like you know, it's easy to find non-organic this, that, or the other thing that's just plugged with, especially with these fake food, you know, with the, you know, gluten-free. Yes.
And the Beyond Burgers, the Impossible.
Yes. It's called the Impossible Burger. It's literally impossible to make without a bunch of, you know, pesticides and things like that. Oh my gosh. Yes.
So in that case, eat the sustainably raised animal products. If you're going to switch, okay. So if we're going from Sam's Club meat to plant soy meat, that's a little different than if we're going from your type of meat to the Impossible fake meat. So you're at the optimal when it comes to eating animal products, but most of the country is not there.
What about people who are going to, I haven't been to Sam's Club in forever.
Or Costco.
Or I haven't been to Costco in forever. It's too far.
Grocery store.
For Aldi people.
Okay.
It's a
grocery store.
But to find the, because there is like organic, you can buy organic chicken.
Oh,
like
boy.
at Aldi. So that's where I think it gets hard for people. I don't know what that means.
Right.
I'll be honest. I'm assuming it's better than the non-organic chicken because they look very different. The organic chicken is smaller. The non-organic chicken is very white, excessively white. Why is this chicken so white?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the skin on and stuff like that. And that's where I don't know. I don't want to go too.
I know.
Crystal, we're crushing the time here. So I don't, you know, we could go for hours. We're going to have to do a part 3.
But
what are your thoughts on like where to go?
Yeah.
With the.
So I also respect and understand that family budgets are a certain amount, especially now with inflation, where we're literally buying the same stuff for double the cost every month. And so that plays a big role for families.
I watch the news though. They're telling me there's not inflation. This is
don't watch the news.
I don't know. Oh, that's my problem. Yeah.
We know that just by going to the grocery store. But again, okay, so let's take it back to a luxury. So if you're going to eat the chicken, you're going to buy the organic chicken, but it's so expensive. You're not going to be able to eat it 3 times a day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
So what do? We have lentils and chickpeas and some organic tofu tossed in there. Why? Because it's a plant source. It's cheaper and it's not going to be filled with antibiotics and hormones and all of the other stuff that they're pumping these industrial raised animals with. So it can be both and.
Yeah.
But if you're going to eat chicken, buy the expensive stuff, which you can't afford much of it. So that is a natural progression of crowding it to a few times a week versus every single day. So we're looking at quality over quantity. Yeah. Instead of buying, eating 8 eggs for an omelet for breakfast, you buy the 1 pack that's $8 of eggs from One Love Candle and Bath. She sells them. She farm raises them. A lot of places around here do Choices. You're paying double, triple the price, but that just means naturally you're going to have less of them throughout the week. So then that's a time to integrate other things. Yeah. Tofu scramble, potato hash, smoothie with protein powder in there for your protein. So yes, is it better than? Yes, it is. Yeah. Is it the best? No, it's not. Yeah. But it's going to be better than whatever you're ordering at Chick-fil-A. Yeah. Or whatever, which my son works there. So it's great. So
does he enjoy it?
He doesn't eat it. Okay. But he loves working there.
Okay. That's why I've heard they're a fantastic company to work for.
Right. Yeah.
Not
that's
the
why
chicken itself.
Yeah. In fact, it's made him even more a bit like,
oh yeah,
I definitely want that. But so it can be both and I think, again, circling back to where we started with real food, the only way that I've been sustainably able to keep my weight at the set point is real food. Yeah. I will also say that once your body gains fat cells, they just go dormant. They never go away. People don't realize this. This is why the gain back rate is so high.
Yeah.
It's in there. They're just dormant, waiting for the next influx of either calories or chemicals to come into the body to expand again.
Yeah.
Because they're there to protect you and to keep you through times of famine, which we never go through. So I think people like me, not just me, but people like me that have lost and then sustained versus maybe you're gaining and then you sustain. That's a very different testimony of how this works. I'm literally a walking testimony of how real food and active movement, right? I'm not doing crazy CrossFit stuff, but I'm intentionally moving my body every single day in some, based on my cycle. Sometimes it's a week of solid yoga and walking. And the next week it's going to be heavyweight training. Keeping muscle on the body is very important for the metabolic rate.
Yeah.
So, and then also healing the soul, staying grounded and rooted in my relationship with God, in the perspective of that I am a spiritual being having a human experience. That is all crucial. So eat real food, move the body, heal the soul. And that trifecta of balance brings something that we desire called wellness.
That is the best place to end a podcast right
I thought
there.
so.
Holy cow.
Did that?
You did fantastic.
Right.
Well, and I think, again, it's so easy. I don't want to take away from anything you just said there, but it's so easy to get caught up in the gobbledygook of all the stuff that you just did not say there. And the three little trifecta, like make this easy on you. Okay. If you're somebody listening right now who's looking to make a little life change, wants to lose weight, don't get sucked into the $300 hydrogen water bottle,
Right.
Don't get sucked into, this, hey, my friend is now selling these supplements in this multi-level marketing thing. And, they've gotten great results and and there might not be anything wrong with said supplements. There's some great supplements in the world. Sure. And there are ones that just take your money and maybe aren't healthy for you. But if you're able to do the three things that you just laid out there, you're probably doing a pretty gosh darn good job and feeling better and feeling healthy. Yeah.
Well, and the blue zones, they're not 100% whole food plant-based. They're still consuming fish here and there, animal products here and there. Yeah. It's just that we have just become so sucked into this hack the system. Yeah. And we're trying to hack and shortcut our bodies to health. And we can't fake health. Yeah. We can fake weight. We can fake size until we can't anymore. But we cannot fake vitality, longevity, and health. Yeah.
Krystal, thank you so much.
Yes.
So, I hate it. Sorry, we have to do section 3 here. We'll give you a break here.
Yeah, it's a lot. We let ourselves process together. Yes. That's so fun.
Well, and that metabolism thing that we were talking about earlier, I would love to dive down deeper with, because that yo-yo dieting is such a big thing. I love the idea of again, different podcast, that reverse diet thing where we build people, we get them eating well, we get them eating enough. We get their body feeling good with the 5-organ deal that you talked about, and moving on top of that, strength training on top of that, building muscle on top. Hey, and then once we're healthy, now let's make that good. That's for the next episode, listeners. Yes. Stop getting excited. Sorry, that's just where my mind went. Like whatever it was, an hour and 15-ish minutes ago. Wow. So I've been hanging on to that thought ever since. But no, thank you, Krystal. If people want to follow you more and see all the fantastic things you're doing, where do they go?
Absolutely. So my website will have all of the connection points.
Yes.
Change Your Life, lyfe.com, changeyourlyfe.com. And then Life Nutrition on Instagram is where I'm most interactive. And then soon I'm going to have an online program. Mm-hmm. And the title of it is Body at War. Finally ending I can't remember my tagline. I got a catchy tagline, but the program name is Body at War, and it's going to navigate through the phases of healing our relationship with food, and then moving into shifting our belief system around food, and then moving into gentle nutrition. Mm-hmm. So that will be launching hopefully this fall, the end of fall. Okay. There is a list forming. So if you go to my website, you can put in your email and get all the updates.
Get all the updates. Yeah.
Yeah. And then with that is going to be a big part of the online Facebook group, the private group, especially when it comes to binge eating, emotional eating, food addiction, tumultuous relationship with food, because as you know from the last podcast, that's a really big part of it. And then once we're good there, then we can really go into the fun of gentle nutrition.
Yeah.
And then from there, from gentle nutrition, then we get to go into the fun biohacking and supplementation and all the things we want to throw money at.
Yeah. That is the thing.
Yeah.
Endless supply of things you can throw money at.
I know.
Holy cow. There you go. No, Krystal, I appreciate your very level-headed, sensible, commonsensical approach. I'm very excited to see your body at war deal. I think that's fantastic. I know you've been working on it a really long time.
Yeah.
2 years, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I had a little pause in there. So I had to kind of restart myself and refind my why. So that's why it's taken so long, but really been knocking it out over the last few
There's
months.
a lot going into this.
There is a lot.
And which is fantastic. Because again, this is not just a 6-week challenge.
Yeah.
This is not a, blah, blah, blah.
Not just education either, because it's also a transformative program to bring personal experience and revelation within yourself, your bio-individual self. So it's a very different approach than what's out there, which I'm very excited about. And I say all the time, I'm not doing this for God. I'm doing this with God, because I see so many people that are living in bondage in their bodies. That was never intended. That was never the intention for us to live that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love it. I think that's why I like talking with you so much, because that your why is completely dialed in. And obviously you're a walking billboard for everything that you believe in. So thank you.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Listeners, thanks for listening. We will check you on the next one. That's all we have for you today. If you have any questions or want to chat or interested in seeing what we're up to in between episodes, head over to Instagram and Facebook and follow @OakStrength. Also check us out at oakstrength.com. If you like this episode, please share it with someone who wants to live happy, healthy, and strong. If you really liked it, subscribe and review the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast on iTunes or Spotify. Be sure to tune back in next week, and remember to keep owning your health.